capital of the world. You've landed on the Daily Objective from the Ayn Rand Center UK. I'm Jonathan Hoenig, and I'm delighted you're with us from all around the world. We are the Ayn Rand Center UK, but we've got students of objectivism from literally all over the world. We're a global community of people interested in objectivism from all different various levels. From, if you've just heard the name Ayn Rand, P.S. It's actually
just heard the name
Ayn
Rand.
No, wait a minute. I've
Yes,
got to turn myself off.
Heard the name
Ayn
Rand.
No, wait a minute.
Yes,
Turn myself off.
heard the name Rand.
I'm in here somewhere. Hold on. Okay. We'll get that in post. If you've just heard the name Ayn Rand, P.S. it's actually Ayn Rand, and I always say Ayn like mine. Or if you've studied Ayn Rand for years and you know all of her works, and that's great too. I've studied Ayn Rand for 20 years, and there's still more for me to learn. And that's part of why I know myself, Rucka Ali, who's also been a student of Ayn Rand for a long time, Mark Pellegrino, and so many of the great presenters we bring to you on the Ayn Rand Center UK channel do this. We enjoy learning about Ayn Rand. We find that it betters our lives. That's the whole purpose of philosophy, is it makes your life better. It makes your life more fulfilling. It makes you think about things, I think certainly objectivism, in a more challenging way, a more fulfilling way. And that's part of what we do here every single day with the Ayn Rand Center UK. We bring you history's largest network of independent objectivist related programming. Every day a new show. And today we've got a great one for you. So show us some love. We've got Daniel behind the scenes. We've got Razi, who keeps this whole thing humming, including in-person events all throughout Europe now that the pandemic's over. And the only thing that keeps it going is your support. So show me some love in the Ayn Rand Center UK channel and with the super chat. And we'll get right to today's topics and hopefully, now wait a minute. Boy, today was, we'll have to redo the whole thing in post, but hopefully you'll show us some love for what is usually a pretty tight show, you have to admit, in our super chat today. So this is not objectivism. We're students of objectivism. We've heard this many times, but we've got a great program today. And it kind of started when I saw this headline, this CNBC headline this morning as I was exercising on the treadmill. The race for renewables, building a fossil-free future. And made me think of Miss Rand's comment, check your premises. Why? What exactly is the value of this fossil-free future? Why? And of course, the reason is that it's now believed, and thank you, Kamerka Beer Shack, for that generous contribution. Appreciate that super chat. We need to see some more, so please show us some love, value for value. But of course, the overriding premise now, the philosophy is that green is good. Green is morally right. And this is something I discussed years ago on Fox Business.
Hysteria, this climate change hysteria that AOC and many leftists really embolize right now. I've been hearing it for 50 years, these predictions. It was going to be an ice age, it was going to be starvation, it was going to be flooding, and it all comes down to sacrifice your own well-being for nature and the so-called public good.
And that's it. Now, that's the idea here, is it used to be, right, sacrifice to God. That was the thing. But the premise is now, especially for, I believe, what I've observed is younger generations, and of course, Ayn Rand, as we'll see, foresaw this in the 1970s. It's no longer sacrifice to God. God is out. Nature is the new God. And Miss Rand wrote a whole series of essays by Miss Rand that we're going to be quoting from today, called The Anti-Industrial Revolution, written in the 1970s, so prophetic. And she wrote back then that the immediate goal of the environmental movement, back then it was called the ecology movement, is obvious: the destruction of the remnants of capitalism in today's mixed economy and the establishment of a global dictatorship. And I'll just jump in and say, when you think about the idea that this philosophy, that green is good, it is led to global dictatorship. It is the overriding philosophy, and I've got plenty of examples we're going to share today. And as Ms. Rand continues back, decades ago, this goal does not have to be inferred. Many speeches and books on the subject state explicitly that is the ecological crusade, and it is a means to that end. And, ideas influence the culture. Ideas taught in college classrooms in the 70s and 80s influenced policy in the 90s and 2000s. Where do the politicians get the ideas? They get the ideas from students who learn them in their classrooms. And that now is affecting something. This is the little tease. I come from the TV world, so we're all about the tease. That's now affecting something very close to home in the UK and certainly in Europe. That has to do with travel in travel in France. And if history is an example, we're going to see more and more of this pop up around the world and certainly around Europe. Now, where do we get this idea that green is good? Well, it's everywhere. So you almost can't blame young people for emulating it. I mean, it was just a few years ago that Greta was, person of the year. That Vladimir Zelensky, who was basically a war hero, is that person this year. Greta, the person of the year, youngest person, power of youth. And, who is honored in today's culture? Who is held up as morally wonderful? Jeff Bezos? No. Elon Musk? No. He's shat on at every opportunity. I mean, Jamie Dimon? No. Even, many great European entrepreneurs, who I can't name off the top of my head. The umlaut still gives me a lot of trouble. You'll forgive me. But environmentalists, they're all the ones who are just, honored. They're so moral. So they're held up as good, because to be green is to be seen as morally right. Yaron Brook always talks about that. People don't vote their pocketbooks. If they did, they would vote for capitalism, right? Because we know they don't vote their pocketbook, they vote for what they believe morally. So green is seen as morally right. So of course you get today's young people. I mean, here we have the new trend now, if you haven't seen it all throughout Europe, are these shit for brain kids, I could say that with all sincerity, defacing artwork, and then sitting down and saying, stop oil, stop oil. This is that wonderful Andy Warhol car. I think it's in France. Maybe it could be in Spain, completely defaced while these do-nothing kids sit down. And now, of course, they're gluing their hands to Monets and stuff. No more oil, no more. They're just nihilistic. But in their minds, in the minds of youth, and now, as I said, these are the policymakers of tomorrow. Green is seeing morally right. Even if you're defacing a Degas, you're defacing, we did a whole show on this, but the idea is they think they're morally right. Those are the ideas that have been communicated to today's youth, and that's what happens in policy, just a few years on. And, as I said, Ms. Rand foresaw this. She wrote about this decades ago, and we're seeing this play out. Green is seen as morally right. It's seen as morally just, but it's not. Again, from Ms. Rand's The Anti-Industrial Revolution, observe the propaganda of all the ecologists. Amidst all their appeals to nature and pleas for harmony with nature, there is no discussion of man's needs and the requirement of his survival. Man is treated as if he were an unnatural phenomenon, right? I mean, we're not even part of the earth. And in fact, a segment of mine was featured in Before the Flood. Brave Leo DiCaprio, so brave, such an environmentalist, partying on the yachts, taking all the private jets. Oh, but he buys the carbon credits, right? He did a documentary in 2016 in which I was featured very briefly, and here was the quote.
Koch Industries is one of the largest privately held fossil fuel interests in the world, and they're doing everything they can to protect that wealth.
Would you give up all that industrialization? Would you give up all the productivity that's brought us, all the lives it has saved over the last 100 years, so that the temperature would rise 0.5% or 1 millisecond?
I mean, Leo put that in as a hit on me, I guess, as a rub on me. But honestly, I mean, look at what Koch Industries and other fossil fuel manufacturers have done. I mean, there's a pretty strong correlation here. The more fossil fuels that have been consumed, the longer man's life has become. Now, look, my grandmother, who I was pretty close with, she died about 20 years ago. She was born in the early 1900s. Life expectancy was 35 back then. And this trend is, it's even worse throughout more Europe. And I think US has generally been the higher end of life expectancy. Now we have life expectancy literally double that. And at the same time, fossil fuel consumption has doubled and tripled. The more we've consumed, the better man's life has become. What's even more insidious about these green environmentalists, because, for them, it's not just about their choice. Because they think it's morally just, they want to use force. That is what is so wrong about it. We're, as objectivists, we are against force, but they want to get government to use the force. And of course, for them, it's all about not just living their green lifestyle, but about forcing others to do just that. So everything's on the table, because when you accept the premises that green is good, why not use government force to make you do what is good? They're going to help you make those tough choices to do what is good. I mean, we all want to do what is good, right? Do you want to do what's bad? So everything's on the table. This is a barrister in the jolly UK, in the mighty England, who is put forth a new law against what he's calling practices that harm the environment, including eating meat. The eating meat is going to be on the table in the UK, but all over, certainly the US. Let's ban junk mail already. So let's ban that. Let's ban pesticides on private property. That's what environmentalists want to do. This is from the CT Post. What about just banning natural gas use in buildings? An article from Master Resource. Environmentalists are petitioning the EPA for that. Not making the choice themselves, but using force. In Europe, from Forbes, European plan now to ban new ICE cars by 2035, inspiring environmentalists. Let's ban fracking. Oh no, we've already banned fracking. Well, wait a minute, says environmentalists, it doesn't go far enough. So they're even trying to ban factory farms. I mean, when you think about what has brought food down, made food so affordable, made starvation, at least in the Western world, a thing of the past, is factory farms. But no, let's ban that. Let's ban that. And of course, we've already banned delicacies, right? Things like foie gras, already banned in New York. And that's the point. You give them an inch, they're going to keep taking a mile. They've already banned 10 single-use plastics in Europe, but according to, of course, to the environmentalists, more action is needed. And, that's the whole point, is that until you're shivering in a tent with no energy and, like in the dark ages, they're not going to be satisfied. And in fact, it's having an impact on people's lives and of course the economy as a result. An article from Skiff that the anti-flying movement is already starting to hurt European airlines. So it's not just now that they're gluing themselves to priceless works of art and making fools of themselves, but these ideas, again, these are not freak kids. They are seen as morally right, and the ideas are taught in today's universities. They're reinforced by today's parents and today's culture writ large. And that's what is so frightening. And again, let me take this opportunity to just know we might be leading, not in super chats, in the absence of super chats. I don't know. Maybe these things just to create themselves, these fabulous presentations that we bring you day after day after day. No, they're actually come from super chats, of which at this point in the program, 14 minutes in, only Kamitra has contributed. So let me just say at this point, all y'all are what we call freeloaders in the business. And step up. We've got Razi literally on a plane right now from Sweden to the UK that's about to be banned. He's going to be on the train pretty soon, paying more but we need your help. We need you to become supporters, and we need your super chats. Oh yes, we've got Robin, we've got Equal to Reality, we've got Robert, they're members. So at least take that step, become a YouTube member of the Ayn Rand Center UK, be a trader, don't get this shit for free, and give value to things you support. If you want to change the culture, start with supporting the people who are radicals in the culture right now. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. You're thanking me. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff Bannister. And Canadian dollars, which I have to say, I'm long the Canadian dollar in my investment fund. No solicitation, but thank you for those Canadian dollars. And Rozzy, if you're listening, let's keep them in Canadian if we can. Of course, we're not, they're already spent, but thank you for that, Jeff, very much. But let's not dismiss this point of what's being taught in the schools, because today's young protesters, these kids that are gluing themselves to Monet, they're influencing tomorrow's politicians. And if you think that's just a line, keep in mind Martin Anderson, in Ideas influenced by Ayn Rand, eliminated the draft in America and all throughout the Western world in modern countries. But now we see the effects of all the protesters and all the ideas playing out once again in terms of hurting man's life, just as I talked about on Fox and just as Ms. Rand talked about decades before, because France has now banned domestic flights, certain domestic flights. When you can take a train, something that takes 10 times longer, they're not allowed by force, not by choice. It's not, you have an airline that says, we're not going to offer this. If you want to support us by choice, we're not going to offer this. We're going to offer other alternatives, support us. It's by force. France is banning these certain domestic flights where there's a train travel alternative. Why? To combat emissions. The irony is, and Robert, thank you, Robert. Robert not only is a YouTube supporter, but he's also a super chatter. Today, Robert says, Malthusianism and its consequent eco-terrorism has been a vicious phenomenon since I was young. These terrorists need to be punished to the maximum extent. I mean, look, I agree. I remember, I forget what they used to be called. I had it at the tip of my tongue. They used to destroy SUV parking lots when I was a kid. That was the thing when I was a young person. That was the thing they did. But now those kids are seen as heroes, and it reverberates around those ideas because they're championed, they're seen as good. Now, if you wanted to go like Rozzy, go around and travel around trying to spread objectivism. If you're a businessman trying to get home from your kid to France or make these trips, you can't. You're going to be on a train going backward. And look at the opposition of what one very famous objectivist who I've met, I have a photo with him, didn't have the time to bring it out, but Blake Scholl, who's an objectivist. He was a student of Harry Binswanger's and Jean Moroney's. Both of them appear on this channel because of your support. He is getting people going faster. He's getting people going faster so you can get home to your kids, so you can make another deal, so you can live your life faster, be more efficient. He's moving life forward, moving mankind forward at the opposition of all the ideas of the culture, which are slowing man down. Oh no, you can take the train. You don't have to eat meat. This is what the environmentalist movement is all about. This is from 2 years ago.
Yeah, you can't fake reality, David. A is A. And once again, the Greens always looking to hurt mankind and their big quest to, make everything green. What do? They just push up people's energy bills. Fact is that natural gas is cheaper than wind. It's cheaper than solar. It's definitely more reliable. And once again, the Greens just start with this premise that if you use natural gas, if you use oil, somehow that's bad. That's the wrong premise to have. These are the energies that power our modern economy forward. And the more fuel we've burned, the better man's life has become. Put man first, the environment will worry about itself.
Okay, what, Jonathan? Jonathan, sometimes you knew.
What? No offense to Christina, but she's right. I mean, that's seen as a shocking statement. Miss Rand illuminated why I believe that's a real important statement decades ago. In order to survive, man has to discover, has to produce everything he needs, which means he has to alter his background and adapt it to his needs. Nature is not equipped for him adapting himself to his background in the manner of animals. From the most primitive cultures to the most advanced civilizations, man has had to manufacture things. His well-being depends on his success at production. And I'll stop and just say, look around you. Everything you see has been produced by man's mind, using the environment to create it. Again, going back to Miss Rand, the lowest human tribe cannot survive without that alleged source of pollution, fire. It is not merely symbolic that fire was the property of the gods, which Prometheus brought to man. The ecologists, once again, are the new vultures swarming to extinguish that fire. She wrote that 20 years ago, and now it's coming true. They're extinguishing that fire. They're kicking you off the plane, and they're stuffing you in a train. Slower, faster. This is seen as heroic, and that's just begun. Unless you support the ideas that are in opposition to it. And we're the only ones in Europe. We're one of the few in Europe doing it. We're only able to do it because of your support. We need it right now. We're able now to start putting on live events. Our YouTube subscribership is growing. So we're the only ones talking about these ideas. We're the only ones challenging these premises that green is good. Who says that green is evil? A small handful. Alex Epstein is amazing. He's done great work. I've known Alex for 20 years. We are among the few really doing it, pushing it forward, trying to change the ideas, change the culture. And this is how you do it, by supporting people who do this professionally. And we're the ones bringing you a live network every day and so many live events. Razi's out there passing out books. Nikos is out there talking to students all throughout Europe. We're bringing Dr. Binswanger to you, twice a week, every week, who is a student of Ayn Rand. James Valiant, who was a student of Dr. Peikoff's. Dr. Peikoff himself has been on this network, and so many others. So support your value. It's not a big commitment. We're talking about 2 pounds, 5 pounds. Put your money where your mouth is. And it's not a duty, but see how much better you feel. See how much better you feel when you feel like, oh, I'm kind of giving into something that I actually support. I'm actually changing the culture, not just talking about it. So thank you for being with us. Mr. Producer, now, what's coming up next on the network? Wait a minute. This is a dead battery because, oh, wait a minute. Because you didn't support the Ayn Rand Center UK, the next show is 24 hours from now, 22 in 40 minutes. 23 and 40 minutes. It's the Daily Objective. We'll be back here tomorrow with another host, more insight, thanks to your support. So thank you for being here today, and we'll see you next time for a new episode of the Daily Objective, brought to you by your support. Thanks for being here. It's Jonathan Hoenig wishing you best premises.